Hi, I'm the great general of the Song Dynasty, and I have one job, and that is to conquer all the enemies. I will take them from the left and to the right, and I will go once and twice, maybe 3 times or 4 times. Yes, that is me, because I am the great general. I'm very skilled in the art of sneaking. I will attack them. I will fight my enemy. In fact, I'm going to ambush them right about now. They're over those hills. My men, we must go over to those hills. Right now, we must go. I will attack them via horse. Let's go. Come on. I will tell you one time that I am the great general. Yes, one time I will slay my enemy. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. I'm a friendly guy. Don't be confused. But yes, I will attack the enemy and I will rip them. Because that is the role of me, the Wu Chu. Okay, what you saw there was my performance of the Zaju character type, the Chu. A bit of context behind the Chu. The Chu in Chinese translates to ugly, and that is the role of the clown. The clown is supposed to inspire happiness into the audience. Now the audience, the idea of this is to keep away evil spirits. Thus the Chu is seen as a character who is a secondary character, not seen as a serious role compared to other characters, but yet plays a very good role in interacting with the audience. Now what I chose to physically explore was the actual body movement of the Chu. There are 2 types of Chu, 2 types of clowns, to specify the Chu as a clown character. There's the Wen Chu, which is a civilian role, the civilian role of either a merchant or a jailer, and then there's the military role, which is the one I chose here, the Wu Chu, which is more skilled in acrobatics. Now how I physically explored it was I needed to practice more with my body movement and actually moving my body more. As you can see, I used my body to convey my dialogue more. I used my body to express my emotion more, which is the role of the clown, to physically explore the emotions. For example, when I did the flip, that was the opening to the scene, skilled in acrobatics. And then also when I was riding the horse, that is a type of movement used to specify for the horse. Now in order to physically explore these, I had to watch videos on it to learn how the movement was actually made. And I also read a couple articles from Chinese tourist sites as well, and I also had to go to the gym a couple times and stretch my legs out a bit in order to get the full body movement. Now, going into why I chose this method because I never explored a clown character before. In fact, I've never really performed in front of anyone. In fact, this is the first time I performed as a clown character, and it was very obvious nervous, but I was able to break through it and still go through with my physical exploration of the body movement. I also needed to watch more videos to see how the movement was shown, and also the singing role as well. The singing role matched with the percussion, which I'll be getting into more later when actually talking about the structure of Zaju theater. So this is my presentation, Zaju theater, also known as Yuan drama. Now, in order to explain Zaju theater, you need to know the origins and the context. So, we need to discuss why did it develop. Now, Zaju theater developed in a time of great peace for China. It was a time of prosperity, a time in which people were allowed to do whatever they pleased. The government didn't really intervene as much with daily life. And the idea of Zaju also related out of Confucianism. Confucianism is an ideological/political idea in which scholars rule society. Therefore, Zaju theater wasn't performed to everybody yet in the Song Dynasty. In fact, it was kept in temples. Now, the Song Dynasty took place in the year 960 through 1279. The Song Dynasty was divided into 2 parts, the Northern Song Dynasty and the Southern Song Dynasty. Although the Northern Song Dynasty had eventually fallen into neighboring tribes. Thus Zaju theater thrived more in the Southern Song Dynasty. Now also, the reason why it's called Yuan drama as well, a bit of context behind that, is because the Mongolians. The Mongolians are a country, Mongolia is a country which neighbors China, and they're often fought in wars with each other throughout history. In this case, Genghis Khan, which is well known throughout the world as someone who pillaged, raped, and conquered nations, eventually took over the Southern Song Dynasty of China. And although the Mongolians were ruling China for the first time in history, the Yuan dynasty was also considered very peaceful. In fact, the reason why Zhaju Theater is called Yuan drama is because it was taken out of the temples for the scholars and now available for people in the courtyards and public spaces. Hence the name Yuan drama. Now we need to discuss what was really going on during this time. Politically, it was a time of great peace, like I mentioned earlier. Confucianism was coming around in China. Socially as well, the government wasn't really intervening, as well as worldwide, I'll be going into. First, to start off political, like I mentioned, Confucianism as well, but the Song dynasty and the Yuan dynasty, great times of peace, also offered great times of exploration. For example, the Chinese were often known as great traders among the world, and they were also seen as the first country to create banknotes out of paper as well. And socially, like I said earlier, Zhaju Theater was now seen to be more of a public space and now available in the Yuan dynasty. But there are specific people who played roles in this, such as Ben Rafu and Guan Haiging were two of the two who were well known in Zhaju Theater. They wrote The Injustice to Du Yi, please excuse my pronunciation, and Bo Refu. A lot of the information on Zhaju Theater was actually lost in between switches of dynasties. Zhaju Theater is the oldest Chinese art form of drama, so it was often lost between switches of dynasties, which involved war and political changes. Hence, a lot of scripts were lost, and a lot of original plays were lost as well. But yet, Zhaju Theater still evolved into many other forms of theater as well, such as Peking opera, also known as Beijing opera as well. Now going into the actual Zhaju Theater structure. The actual Zhaju Theater structure is an opera. Zhaju is an opera theater, often consists of singing and dancing. Zhaju is a theater which has 4 acts, and each act has a different melody or percussion in it. Zhaju also consists of wedges as well, which are seen at the beginning, at the beginning of the play, or at the end of the play, or between each act. Also just to go a little bit of context within Zhaju Theater, as well as the history. Along with the worldwide, Zhaju Theater was very different because this was a time of great peace, and in Europe, in fact, what was happening was the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages was a time of plunder, and it was not looking good, disease as well, and the Catholic Church ruled everything. Vikings took over France in worldwide during this time. Also, the Kingdom of England became a unified state. The lions had also become extinct in Europe. And traders also saw the Chinese ships as great, majestic, technical aviations. That was just a bit of worldwide context. Now continue with the theater structure. Society, scripts, like I mentioned before, were lost against dynasties. And often Zhaju plays consisted of art and literature. And the arts and literature inspired Zhaju Theater because these were easy to base stories off of. But specifically, a lot of Zhaju plays had to deal with romance, had to deal with adventure, and had to deal with fear as well. For example, with my theater convention, mine was more of a comedic skit as well, which would be seen as one of the wedges in between the acts. That was my role as the clown, is to show that I am a character who is funny. Zhaju Theater also had characters who were funny, and also for their percussions as well, as you can tell by the audio tape I was using, was more upbeat. Now, the impact on me as a performer was that I was able to relate Zhaju Theater to another form of another world theater tradition called Bunraku. And Bunraku is a theater tradition which ranged from Japan, which I find very interesting because Japan and China were often at war with each other throughout history, and they had one thing in context, one thing similarly, which was that they were both able to come up with theater traditions that were well known throughout the world in times of great peace. I was also able to improve my research immensely and not just learn about Zaju theater and the physical movement of the Chu character type, but I was also able to learn the history of China and Asia as well. I was also able to work on my theater convention properly as well as working on my body in order to meet the needs that were meant. For example, the dance, where I had to simulate the horse. I had to work with my legs, as well as that fear of being in front of an audience, because because before I never really presented a character type in front of anybody, let alone a Chinese character type as well. I also could relate Zaju theater to Peking opera, and also known as Beijing opera, because Zaju theater is transformed throughout the times into these other forms of opera, and they are seen as very similar. Both the Chu character type in Zaju is also seen in Beijing opera, and also that is what I used as my reference as well, parts of Beijing opera, because Zaju theater and Beijing opera are very similar both act-wise and character-wise. Thank you very much. This is my presentation on Zaju theater, also known as Yuan drama.